In response to the numerous requests, I'm thrilled to present a comprehensive walkthrough of setting up React Native CLI on your Windows machine. To begin this journey, we're setting our course for React Native's official documentation. For this, you're going to need to open up your browsers and go to reactnative.dev. Once you get here, you're going to click on the Development tab and then Guides. And here you're going to find Environment Setup. Click on this and go to Set up your environment. We already discussed what Expo is and why we are not using it in the previous videos. Therefore, if you're planning on using Expo, this course is not going to be useful for you. There's a bunch of other courses on Udemy where you can use Expo if you want. You can always get a refund and purchase those courses. If you want to test your applications in the iOS environment as your target OS, you're going to have macOS. And I blame this disadvantage for Windows users on Steve Jobs. One more thing I want to mention here is that instead of looking at this video to write the comments in the terminal, I suggest you go to the documentation yourself as well. It's going to be easier for you to copy those comments from the documentation that we're going to be using. This will also make sure that you do not have any typos for the commands that you're going to run, and therefore you're not going to face any unexpected issues. Other than that, the React Native documentation updates very frequently. I always try to stay on top of these updates, and I try to release new videos as the newer instructions come out. But just in case you're watching this video when the new version is still fresh, you might see outdated information on my screen. The installation process is probably going to be the same, but you might need to run newer version commands. So I recommend to follow me and the documentation at the same time. Now that that's clear, I want to get into the dependencies that we're going to be installing for React Native. So let's go to the Android tab here, and we're going to see that we need React Native command line interface, a JDK, and an Android Studio. Now, I do want to mention that in order to install Node, we're going to have to install Chocolatey, which is an installation assistant. Basically, it is a package manager for Windows that simplifies the installation of softwares and tools. Think of it as a tool that would help you install every other dependency for React Native applications to run smoothly. It is going to help us in installing JDK and Node, which is required for React Native development. Now, for experienced developers who might already have set up Node and JDK on their computers, please pay attention that your Node is higher than version 18. And also make sure that your JDK version is 17, as with higher JDK versions, you might encounter problems. If you do not have these versions available, you're going to have to install or update them. Now, if you already have Node installed, you want to have multiple versions of it, then you're most welcome to use NVM, which stands for Node Version Manager, and it would allow you to have multiple versions of Node and switch in between them. I will also place a link to the NVM documentation inside the resources folder for this video. Otherwise, if you're totally new to React Native and have none of these tools installed, just follow me and we're going to install everything together from scratch. So as we discussed, the first thing that we're going to install is the Chocolatey. For that, you can just click on this link here. And as the first step, we're going to see the subscription here, and I'm not going to subscribe. So I'm going to close this tab and I'm going to go to the step 2. After that, please make sure that you have the individual tabs selected here. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is make sure that we are not restricted and all of our permissions are set correctly. So for that, you're going to need to look for Windows PowerShell. You can just look for it through the search bar, and you need to run this as an administrator. So make sure to click on this. And now that this is opened, let's move this out of the way and get started with the permission check. Let's copy this and paste it here and see what it outputs. And here we're seeing that we're getting restricted value. And the documentation says that if it returns restricted, then we should run this here. So let's just copy this, paste it in our PowerShell. and we're going to say yes to all. And to say yes to all, you need to click on A on your keyboard and then press enter. And now we can rerun this command again to make sure that everything went smoothly for us. So copy this again, paste it here, click on enter, and we see that everything is signed. Now that we're all set, we want to run this command. So just copy this command and paste it here and click on enter. And here we see that we are running the Chocolatey version 2.4.1. So we should be all set. We don't need this window anymore, and we can just continue with the React Native installation process. So I'm going to close this window and we can continue from here. Right now, we're going to use this Chocolatey that we just installed to install Node and OpenJDK through this command presented here. So in order to do this, we are going to need to run command prompt as an administrator as written here. So if you're looking for command prompt, you can just go to the search bar, type in command prompt, and make sure to run it as an administrator. And you're going to need the command prompt a lot. So if you already don't have it pinned to your taskbar, make sure to pin it like this. And now we can get this out of the way and get started with our installation. So just copy this command and paste it here and click on enter. Now, while this is completing, I do want to say what Node is. Think of Node.js as the engine that powers your React Native projects. React Native is based on JavaScript, and Node allows you to run JavaScript outside of a web browser, making it ideal for building cross-platform applications. So we're installing Node to ensure React Native journey is off to a solid start. Now we're also installing JDK, which is the toolkit for Java-based applications, and we need it because it's a pivotal component for Android. And if you're new to development, you should know that Java and JavaScript are completely different languages. Installing JDK ensures compatibility between your code and the Android platform. By installing this, we are laying the foundation for seamless Android development. Now let's wait for this to complete, and you can come back to the video once this is done. Right now, we can see that this is already completed, so we can move on to the next steps. There were some environment changes with this, and I suggest that you close your command prompt actually, and you reopen it to not face any issues. So let's just search for command prompt again and make sure to run it as an administrator. And now we can continue with the next steps. So the next step is Android development environment setup. So let's just do this. Let's click here to download and install Android Studio. Just click on download Android Studio and make sure to go through the steps of terms and conditions. Click on agree and click on download. Now this might take a while, so just come back to the video once the download is done for you. Great, the download process has finished for me, so we can just go here and click on the Android Studio file to begin our installation process. So here we can just click on next, 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 and install. This will also take some time, so just come back to the video once your installation is done. Now let's click on next and finish. This will start up the Android Studio. And I don't want to send any statistics to Google. If you want to do so, you're free to do so. We're gonna have to follow this wizard. So let's just click on next and then next here again. And then let's click on next again. And we're gonna accept all of these licenses. And then we can click on finish. And now it's going to start downloading your components. It's going to take a while, so you can just come back to the video once this is done for you as well. Great, so all of the components have been downloaded as of now. So let's just click on finish here and we're welcomed to the Android Studio. That's great. So let me just close this command prompt, move this here, and we don't need this window anymore. So let's just close it and follow the next steps, which is installing the Android SDK. To do that, we need to click on more actions and then SDK manager. More actions is right here. Let's click on SDK Manager and we're redirected to this screen. Here we need to find the Android 15 vanilla ice cream entry. And if the documentation differs, please follow that and not my video. And we can see that this is actually already checked off. And we need to make sure that the following items are selected. To see those, we need to click on Show Package Details, which is right here. So let's click on this. And now we can see the details. And we need Android SDK Platform 35. And that's already selected here, so I don't need to click here. And we need the Intel system image or Google API system image. I'm actually going to check both. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click here. And then we need to click on SDK Tools tab and go to Show Package Details as well here. And let's do that first. So Show Package Details. And we need to find 35.0.0 here, and we need to select it. So make sure to do what the documentation says. And we're going to click on Apply. OK. And this is going to need some time to get installed. So wait for this to complete and come back to the video after that. This has been completed. Just make sure to click on Apply after hitting the Finish button on your installation process, and then click on OK. And now we can move on to the third step, which is configuring the Android Home environment variable. Now we have all the directions that we need here. The only thing that you could do to save some time is just go to More Actions one more time, click on SDK Manager, and make sure to copy this address, okay? So let's just copy this and click on OK one more time. And we're going to go to the Windows control panel. And to go there, you can just search for it here. Open that, and then go to User Accounts. Then click on User Accounts one more time. And then we're going to change our environment variables. So go here, and we need to add Android Home variable here. So click on New. And then we can paste the value that we had here. And we can call this Android Home. So let's just type it ourselves, Android Home. Just make sure that you don't have any typos here. And then click on OK. And once you do that, another thing we need to do is make sure to add platform tools to our path variable, which is located here. So click on this path variable, click on Edit, and then New, and then paste this value again. If you lost it, just go back to More Actions, SDK Manager, and copy it from here. And once you do that, we're just going to go here and add platform tools to this. So let's copy this, go here, click on Edit, and add the rest. Whoops, I missed the slash. Great. So now let's click on OK. We have the path variable, we have the Android Home variable, and now all we need to do is click on OK, and this should be saved. To ensure that everything went well, you can just copy this command and then go to PowerShell and then run it as an administrator. Here, we're going to paste this command, and we can see the Android Home variable is here. We should be all set. We can just close this. And now we're ready to prepare our Android device. We're going to use that device to actually run our React Native project that we're about to create. So you can just click on More Actions here, go to Virtual Device Manager, and here we're going to create a new device. And we're going to use this device throughout our whole course. So click on Create New Device. We're going to search for Pixel 4a because that's my favorite phone. I actually had it and owned it. And now we're going to click on Next. Vanilla ice cream is automatically selected. If something's missing for you, just make sure that you get the same version that's mentioned here. So match it with this one and match it with this one. And then click Next. And now we can just click on Finish. And now we can just launch this from the Start icon here. And then if you face any issues with running this emulator, just close Android Studio and reopen it. It should solve it for you. Great, so this has been opened. I don't need this window anymore, nor do I need this window. I can close it. I'm going to move this here. And now we are ready to install our first React Native project. So for that, open the command prompt and let's go to the desktop here by changing our directory cd and then desktop. And here we want to use the React Native create command that goes like this: npx at React Native community /CLI. And then we're going to use init, that stands for initialize, and we're going to name our project Awesome Project. Let's click on enter. And you might be asked if you want to proceed. If you're asked that question, just click on Y on your keyboard and then click on enter. And then you should see this huge React Native logo pop up in your terminal. This means that everything's going well and we're downloading the template. Again, this might take some time, so you need to wait for this to complete. And once this is done, you can come back to the video and we're gonna actually run this. Great, so now my emulator is open. As you can see, I have the instructions to run the application on Android. The first thing that we see here is that they're asking us to have an Android emulator running. We already ran this device, but if you ever need to just rerun it somehow, what you need to do is go to Android Studio on your computer, and then you're going to go to More Actions, Virtual Device Manager, and just click on the Start button here, and it should start your emulator. Great, so since we have this step completed, we can change our directory from desktop now and go and run this command, which basically runs your project on Android. So just copy this and then paste it here. Click on enter. So this is called Metro Bundler, and I'm going to mention it in other videos as well. Please do not turn this off when you're working on your application. What this terminal does is it constantly checks on any file updates in your project. And if any of them changes, it will update your application in the emulator. If you turn this off when you're working on your app, the changes that you're going to make are not going to be reflected in the emulator. So definitely make sure this is on at all times when you're working on the project. Now, we just got an error here, and I kind of wanted you to see this error because React Native actually has an issue with Gradle. If you're having issues with the Gradle, you're going to see it in that terminal. And I'm not sure exactly why they haven't updated their code and why they don't keep up with the Gradle versions. If you don't have this issue, then great. They might have already updated everything they needed to. But just in case you see this, currently for React Native version 0.76, which is what we installed, the Gradle version is going to be 8.11.1. If you're having issues with this, please do comment on the video and we can get you the Gradle version that you need. I'm actually updating this video because of this issue. So to fix this, just open your awesome project and then go to Android, then go to Gradle, wrapper, and then Gradle wrapper file that is properties file. Click on edit. And then here, you're going to change this to 8.11.1, okay? And then you're gonna save this. Don't forget to save it. We can just close this and we can rerun the same command that we ran before. To rerun the same command, by the way, you can click on up arrow on your keyboard and then click on enter. This should rerun and I think it will be successful now. And as a recommendation, if you need other Gradle versions and 8.11.1 is also not sufficient, you can go and Google Gradle distributions. And you can go to the GitHub link right here. This is going to have information about all of the releases they did. You don't want any pre-release items. Maybe the latest version could work, but it didn't work for me now, so I didn't use it. So we're skipping the ones that say pre-release. And then I just checked this version and it worked out, so that's great. I'm sorry that it's a pain. If it's not a pain anymore, that's great. But if it is, you can just check it out here and see which one works out. let's wait for this to be completed and you can come back to the video once that's done. Great, you see that our build was successful and our application actually loaded already in the emulator. You can scroll and see how the initial application looks like. And yeah, we completed our first project and installed the application and got it running on Android. Now, you're going to see me working with macOS mainly in the following videos. And if there are going to be any differences that are very important to mention, I will mention them for Windows specifically. Otherwise, most of the commands that I'm going to use are going to be the same, so don't worry. Just follow the videos. You're going to have no issues. Just make sure that if I go into the terminal and I'm trying to do something in the iOS folder, you don't do the same because you don't have Xcode, which is a tool on macOS that cannot be installed on Windows. I'm going to mention this in the notes as well for Windows, and I will attach those notes to every video in the course just in case you need to look at it when viewing specific videos. So don't ever do anything for iOS folder inside your project and just worry about Android. So in the next video, we're going to go over the differences between macOS and Windows. So please do watch that and it will save you a lot of time. Follow the course and I hope that you're going to love it. If you have any questions, certainly reach out. If you encounter any issues with the Windows in the course, please do let me know or write a question in the Q&A section. I'm here to support you and we have also a huge community that can answer your questions. I'll try to do my best to help you resolve your issues as well. So thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great rest of the day.